Welcome to NTV Tonight, our top stories.
Tonight, the Ministry of Lands faces questions about an unexplained 7 billion shillings expenditure.
We would want to increase opportunities in day schooling so that we as parents can also get an opportunity of engaging our children and making sure that these children are adequately taken care of.
Also tonight, government to push for day schooling as a measure to check the tide of school unrest.
Also tonight, downtown Nairobi flares up as hawkers from Muturi protest harassment and extortion by county askaris.
Our problem is our walls. Our houses are falling apart. There is very visible cracks that have become very dangerous.
And a Kajiado couple narrates why the SGR for them is more pain than gain.
NTV Tonight with Gladys, Gachanja and Masai.
Thank you for making time. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atenu.
Our top story, the Ministry of Lands is once again on the spotlight over an unexplained expenditure of 7 billion shillings.
A report by the Auditor General Edward Oko says that the ministry had failed to provide documents supporting the expenditures incurred in the resettlement program for the internally displaced persons and evictees of the Mau Forest.
The findings are contained in a new report before Parliament. NTV's Silas Apollo tells us more.
The report by Mr. Uko is a fresh indictment of the ministry that has been in a race to clean up its system and restore the trust of the public. According to Uko, the unexplained expenditures for the year ending June 2016 were for the purchase of land and buildings valued at 6.1 billion shillings, as well as the fixed and loose assets totaling 38 million shillings, but whose supporting documents were not provided for audit review. Of the figures, 6.5 billion shillings is a balance brought forward from previous years on expenditure on land to resettle internally displaced persons and Mau Forest evictees. Another is additional expenditure of 1.26 billion shilling grant from the National Treasury for the purchase of Waitiki Farm and the Majani Mingisai Solar Estate, and a further 21 million shillings worth of land parcels in various settlement schemes disposed of during the year. There is also a further 324 million shilling grant from the Treasury for the resettlement of the landless in the 1980s. Of concern to the auditor was a failure by the ministry to maintain a fixed and current register during the year under review, which he says made it difficult to determine whether all the non-current assets were accounted for. The result, says Ouko, is that it has not been possible to confirm whether the balance for property, plant and equipment valued at 7.4 billion shillings was fairly stated. The ministry, however, defended itself, with the Principal Secretary, Nicholas Muraguri, saying that documents related to the purchase of land for the internally displaced persons were available, contrary to the report. In fact, he argues in a supporting affidavit that all the transactions were done above board, but some of the expenditures were incurred during the 1995 to 2008 period before a system crash was experienced at the Treasury and which continues to raise audit queries. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Education matters. The government is considering edging out the boarding school system so as to allow parents to better monitor their children by virtue of being in day schools.
This is according to Basic Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, who told the National Assembly's Education Committee that parents have left their responsibilities to teachers.
Sharon Baranga looks into the plans the PS says the government has as it seeks to address issues that have been affecting schools.
The dark, ashy remains of what was once a dormitory for 250 students are a testament of the school fire's craze visiting Nasokol Girls High School in West Pokot County. The fire is said to have started around 7 a.m. when students were in for their morning preps. The disturbing incidents and their replication across various parts of the country has yet again seen efforts and proposals of interventions.
The future of any country is day schooling. This is one of the countries where obsession of boarding schools is so high.
This proposal is a build-up of what had already started being piloted. Last year, the Ministry of Education announced its plans of introducing day wings to some boarding schools in Nairobi, listing 19 institutions that will be part of the first phase of the project this year. Even with plans to increase the number of schools with day wings, the first group of Form 1 students joining day wings reported to their respective schools. PS Kipsang says the aim of this approach is to enable parents to closely monitor their children.
We would want to increase opportunities in day schooling so that we as parents can also get an opportunity of engaging our children and making sure that these children are adequately taken care of.
Kipsang, who appeared before the Parliamentary Education Committee, says that the localization of head teachers will continue as scheduled. This is because teachers are public servants and therefore they can work from any part of the country.
We are not about to allow our children to guide us on who will run our schools. We shall allow Teacher Service Commission to do that which the Constitution expects them to do, post teachers to schools, and avail managers of schools. We have never been consulted from where we come from when a new county commissioner is being posted to a county. We've not had anybody saying that we've not been consulted on the new county commissioner or the new OCBD to a police station. Nay, we shall for sure not consult our students when it comes to who runs our schools.
So far, 139 students linked to unrest in schools have been arrested. And the government insists that parents will meet the costs of restoring damaged property. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
So the government is considering edging out boarding schools so that parents can have more time and monitor their children. So they should be taken to day schools. A lot of reactions coming through on the same.
Whether you have been part of a boarding school, have gone through a boarding school or day school system, you definitely have your say on this. We asked a few people on this what they had to say.
Having day schools is not a solution, but we should engage the stakeholders, plus even the students. Let them tell us what is the itch.
All of us passed through boarding school know that when there's good discipline, boarding school is the best. So I accept that as a parent, let's reintroduce the cane. If we discipline our children, because that's about their lives, let's not spare the road.
Wazazi wanalini upande wa watoto wenye hataki mtoto yake aguzwe na mwalimu, inakuwa court case sababu mtoto amekuwa discipline na mwalimu. Anafanya mtoto anajua at the end of the day niko na backup ya mzazi.
To say that schools be converted to day school, it will affect the marks. All of us passed through boarding school know that when there's good discipline, boarding school is the best. So I accept that as a parent, let's reintroduce the cane.
Habari ya kuweka mtoto boarding school inachangia mambo mengi kwa sababu mzazi ako na muda mdogo sana. Maanake kuna wengine hata wameenda Ulaya ameacha mtoto kwa majukumu ya mwalimu. Yeye amejisahau kwamba ni pati yake ya kufanya nini? Ya kuongoza watoto wake. Boarding ikiwa itakuwa na security ya kutosha na walimu wakae pale waweze kuwa monitor vizuri is the best. Maanake atmosphere inakuwa ni ya kusoma.
Boarding schools nyingi wameinvest so much on building the dormitories and other facilities. So if we turn them to be day schools, sasa hazitatumika, maana sasa hizo dorms zitatumika kufanyia nini?
This will dominate conversations around the country, and that is why actually Gladys will be having a conversation on this with stakeholders tomorrow on NTV Today from 9 o'clock. Join her then. A police officer is nursing injuries after Thursday morning chaos at Muturi and Marikiti markets in Nairobi.
The drama ensued when the hawkers took to the streets demonstrating over hefty rates levied by the county government and harassment by county askaris.
The protest went on for several hours, forcing police to lob tear gas canisters to disperse the rowdy youth who had barricaded the busy Haile Selassie Avenue, burning tires and pelting stones.
And as Kevin Muturi reports, the hawkers have vowed to soldier on with their complaints until their grievances are addressed.
Clouds of smoke filled the air Thursday morning at the Muturi and Marikiti markets along the busy Haile Selassie Avenue in Nairobi as police engaged in running battles with hawkers. The officers were forced to use tear gas to disperse the rowdy youth who had barricaded the road with bonfires as they complained about arrests and detention of their leaders at the market.
As the protest enters its second day in Nairobi's Muturi and Marikiti market, the traders continue agitating for the release of some of their own who were arrested by police on suspicion of causing the mayhem in the city.
Kama watatilia Saida Kaguta na youth leader wetu sisi hatukai hatufanyi kazi. Kule kanjua kuna pesa ambia kanjua kuna pesa.
We cannot allow hooligans to come and start barricading the roads and writing bonfire. So it is an offense that was detected by city askaris. So this man was arrested. They could have waited for him to be taken to court.
The violence led to the injury of one police officer after the hawkers started pelting stones as they fought the law enforcers who were using tear gas. Motorists and pedestrians suffering the brunt of the chaos. The traders are complaining over the hiked levies by the county government of Nairobi, while at the same time accusing the county askaris of harassment and extortion.
Our city council walikuja wakaingia hapa soko wakata kufuruga watu, then wakaingia huku ndani wakata kushika watu wa Meron. Baadaye vita ikaanza.
Hawkers in the cities needs to be given time that to be operating. For example, they can say from 8 to 10. You see that early morning, or from 6 to 10.
Transport was paralyzed for several hours as motorists diverted to other routes within the city, causing a traffic snarl-up. Some businesses also remained closed for the better part of the morning for fear of goons destroying or even looting the property. The traders now want the intervention of Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko to resolve the matter, maintaining that they contribute billions of shillings annually to county revenue. Kevin Mutai, NTV.
National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi now says the country should rethink its governance system and think about adopting a parliamentary system.
In a one-on-one interview with NTV's Kennedy Mureithi, the speaker also says the current arrangement where the president picks his cabinet from outside parliament is ineffective, and perhaps the country should think about going back to the old ways where cabinet ministers were also members of parliament to create a close connection between the executive and the legislature.
Here's a snippet of the interview that will run on Sunday.
I think it helped a great deal when we had ministers sitting in the plenary of the House. A lot of the concerns that or issues that members raise sometimes in the old system would be addressed because, immediately, because members are, they are with the ministers and their assistants, in the House all the time. Now the current system has this weakness that majority of the cabinet secretaries are not people who have gone through the processes of vote hunting. So sometimes they may not quite understand the uniqueness that members sometimes may approach them with regard to issues of concern to their constituents.
The full length of that interview with the Speaker of the National Assembly with our very own Kennedy Mureithi will run on Sunday at a 9 o'clock bulletin. An appeal court in Mombasa has nullified the election of Lamu Senator Anwar Loitiptip of Jubilee. A three-judge bench ruled that the election was marred with irregularities and directed the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to hold fresh elections in Lamu.
While Senator Loitiptip heads to the Supreme Court, it was celebration for Marakwet East MP Kangogo Bowen, Turkana Women Representative Joyce Emanikor, and Turkana East MP Mohammed Lokiru, whose elections were upheld.
The Court of Appeal in Lamu has nullified the election of the Senator Anwar Loi Tip Tip. In overturning a decision of the High Court, the Court of Appeal ordered IEBC to conduct a fresh election. Wiper Democratic candidate Hassan Albay had challenged Loi Tip Tip's election, citing massive irregularities relating to vote counting and verification. The Jubilee Senator, whose election had been upheld by the High Court, has vowed to move to the Supreme Court.
Nataka kuishukuru judiciary. Manake mara nyingi watu wailaumu, lakini hapa judiciary Mungu ndo anajua wamefanya kazi yao sawa sawa bila kusukumwa.
Marakwet East MP Kangogo Bowen was validly elected. In Eldoret, Court of Appeal judges Erastus Githinji, Fatuma Sijale and Anna Okwengu ruled that the petitioner Sami Kipkeo Kemboi failed to adduce enough evidence that there were massive irregularities in Bowen's election victory. Bowen had taken the matter to the Court of Appeal after Kipkeo had successfully convinced the High Court that there were irregularities in some polling stations, casting doubt on the final numbers. Addressing his supporters immediately after ruling, the MP weighed in on the conversation about corruption in the country.
We are supporting the president and the deputy president in the fight against the corruption. Yes. We support because these are the masses. These are people who are suffering because of corruption in this country. So we are saying we are ready for lifestyle audit.
Turkana East MP Mohamed Lokiru's election was also upheld. Former MP Nicholas Ngikor, who came second in the August 8th general election, had sought nullification of Lokiru's win, citing massive irregularities. Turkana Women Representative Joyce Emanikor has also been given mandate to continue serving in her position after the Court of Appeal dismissed an election petition over the seat filed by Pauline Lokuruka. 3 judges of appeal who ruled the matter noted that the petitioner failed to substantiate claims of massive irregularities in the election. Maumiendo, NTV.
Well, as the World Cup draws to a close, we at NTV will be putting the games aside to focus on the business of news, as we have always done.
We've been working behind the scenes on a fresh, new look, and we'll be unveiling the new faces that will yet again prove that we take what we do seriously.
Here now are the new faces of a bold, new and authoritative NTV Jioni.
Kinachodumu daima ni mabadiliko. NTV Jioni inazidi kuimarika, lakini ubora ni ule ule. Mimi ni Daniel Mule na NTV imepata nuru mpya.
Mimi ni Nuru Gladys, tutaendelea kukuletea habari za utendeti hapa na pale.
Niite Salim Swale na kusalimu kwa ufahari mkubwa tokea papa hapa kwa wakomavu wa fikra. Tabani yote haya ni jaala ya Kimola.
Jina langu ni Doreen Majala, tutakupa umuhimu wa jamii na jamaa.
Jina langu mimi ni Kaltun Jama, nikiwa na ari na fahari ya kukupa habari na kutokuwepo na johari.
Utakayepata nami Jane Ngoiri, bila kumsahau atakayedunda dunda viwanjani.
Mimi Yoshua Makori, kawaida yangu huwa na dunda viwanjani, haraka upesi kukupasha yaliyojiri uwanjani.
Nami ni Harith Salim, pamoja na wenzangu tutakuletea kwa uketo, usawa na ufasaha habari za kuaminika.
Exciting times up ahead, and yet to get some translation on what exactly was said there with the really Sanifu Swahili. But yes, as you can expect, there'll also be new faces to unveil for our NTV Tonight team, and as well as our programming, and we'll take a break at this point.
9:09. Thank you for staying with us. Hopes of finding 4 fishermen who went missing after their boat capsized in the Indian Ocean on Tuesday are diminishing by the day.
The 4 were among 6 fishermen who had gone fishing in Mombasa, where the 2 survivors swam for more than 10 hours before getting to the shore.
Peter Mwangangi with that story.
Fishermen gathered along the shores of Tamarin, Mombasa for a second day. They are still searching for their missing colleagues. Matano Jeffrey and Edwin Odhiambo survived the Tuesday morning incident by swimming through the Treasurer's Ocean to the shore. They were in a boat of 6 fishermen.
Tukajitahidi kuogelea lakini maji yalikuwa zaidi yanatuvuta upande wa Kilifi nje. Tukawa pamoja watu 6 sote tunaitana majina isipokuwa current ilikuwa iko strong sana. Kila tukiangalia hizi taa ambapo tulipoangukia maji yalikuwa na nguvu yatupeleka nje zaidi.
Ni mambo ya Mungu, maajabu ya Mungu tu yani. Sababu baridi. Unajua baridi pia ndio ilichangia. Baridi ilikuwa nyingi sana.
The missing 4 have been identified as Mohamed Harun, Ahmed Ali, Lance Maritho and Idi Passe. The news of Ahmed Ali alias Bojo came as a shock to his family since he has never ventured out into the sea to fish.
Ni mara ya kwanza mimi mwenyewe nilipata surprise, nilipata shock manake amekwenda kuvua. Kaambia sikubali. Kila mtu ananiambia mimi niko on the way coming, watu wanipigia. Naambia sijakubali kama Ahmed anakwenda kuvua. Nilikataa kabisa paka kuja kuconfirm na kina Salim na Matano.
Despite promises to improve their trade, fishermen say they are still faced with the lack of specialized equipment, training, among other challenges.
Wakati kama huu, current inavuta upande mmoja kupeleka maji Arabuni, upepo vile vile. So pale walipozama, sipo pale ambapo ninatarajia mili ukaipata. Si ajabu kwa hivi ninavyoongea, mimi niko Tamarini hapa maeneo ya baharini, lakini ukasikia mwili umepatikana wa Kilifi, Mtwapa, hiyo mimi naweza kukubali.
Mombasa Police Commander Johnston Ipara said a multi-agency team of divers has been involved and will expand its search to Kilifi and Kwale counties. He also appealed to fishermen to reduce their trips to the sea during this season. Peter Mwangangi, NTV, Mombasa.
3 members of Wajir County Assembly have been arrested and are being held at the Wajir Police Station.
Well, the police, several members of a county assembly stormed Wajir Police Station and unsuccessfully demanded for their release.
Criminal investigation officers arrested Haddado Ward member of Assembly Shale Bule Abdi Aden of Wagara and Osman Mukhtar of Arbajan Ward from their offices.
The arrest is being linked to chaos that erupted in the county assembly for the last 2 days after differences emerged between the members and the speaker.
The members are accusing the speaker of being behind the arrest of the 3. For the past 2 days, there have been sharp differences in the county assembly between the members and the speaker over the membership of the county assembly service board.
That this afternoon at 2:30 we were expecting to have the announcement of Abdunur as the minority board member, but that was cut off when the detectives picked them up from the offices who are trying to make the paperwork ready to make the deadline as 2:30.
As members, we are contemplating on how to remove the speaker because we are the ones who brought him on board in the beginning. What we want to tell the speaker is that 3 out of the 44 votes he received are currently in custody. If he cannot relate with them in harmony, I think he has no reason being among us.
Well, earlier on we showed you the new look Swahili desk, but that's not all. We remain your channel of choice.
NTV will be turning on your world with not just a new look, but also new additions.
Here are the newest members of a bold, authoritative and balanced NTV Tonight.
We are the 4th estate and we hold power to account. We ask the hard questions of those who hold that power, and we represent the people who don't have that opportunity to ask those hard questions.
But the burden of telling these stories is not in just giving a chronological order of events and evoke emotions and reactions, I want to give context, not only to explain what happened, but why it matters to you and what it means. I am Dennis Okari.
And I'm Olive Barrows.
Because the facts matter and the truth matters.
When it really matters, you can trust us to bring you the complete picture.
We're in business. Speaking of which, we're getting into the business of the day. Hudhaifa Aiden will be running that agenda after the break.
Your precious gift deserves only the best skin protection.
Good evening, welcome to NTV Business. And yet again, the judiciary has weighed in on the National Social Security Fund's board wars and stopped Okuriatani, the Labour Cabinet Secretary, from convening a board meeting for the fund. The CS is accused of failing to gazette and appoint Damaris Wanjiru Muhika, a nominee of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, to the NSSF Board of Trustees. Kotu, through its boss Francis Atwoli, is accusing the CS of frustrating their nominee, even as the board considers various issues such as financial reports, approval of projects, advertising, conducting interviews and appointing general managers for various departments. The court has certified the matter as urgent and instructed the trade unions to file the case by Monday and serve the relevant authorities. And brace yourself for the ultra-long-haul flight to the completion of Konza City. Progress of the Technopolis is taking place, but at a pace that makes one wonder when it shall be completed. ICT Cabinet Secretary John Musheri earlier today led ICT committees from the Senate and the Council of Governors in a tour of the vast site. The CS did not, however, provide a clear picture of the progress of the city's construction, instead choosing to talk to members of the committee about the government's commitment to the Big Four agenda and technology as an enabler of development. So far, the launch structure that stands on the plain is the Konza complex, whose construction is expected to be completed by the end of the year, and the 9-story building was meant to have been completed in January.
Actually, we were doing our building as part of our public relations. It will help Kenyans and the world know that the project is for real, now that a building is in existence. In the building, we've actually provided a space for not less than 20 innovators, and the authority is actually planning to incubate and potentially patent and sell innovations annually, at least 20, and that part of the space provided in the building.
As you have seen here in Konza, we do have the contractors who are actually taking on the jobs and projects, and they are able to move quickly. We are able to push them. Government is not in the business of business. We're there to set up policy and regulations. Private sector is how we're going to grow.
And could ethanol be the solution as an alternative source of energy to take place of the wood fuel? The government is planning to introduce cooking stoves that use ethanol to reduce dependency on charcoal, whose usage is detrimental to the environment. Gabriel Kudaka has the details of the new strategy.
The rising demand for timber, charcoal and firewood has been a constant threat on the country's forest cover, forcing the government to impose a ban on logging activities. The impact is being felt by those who rely on wood fuel for cooking and heating.
Alafu makaa yenyewe imepanda bei from 700 to 18 to 2000. So it has been so hard, and then kupatikana naye ni ngoma.
Kangogo is now forced to complement charcoal with gas, especially when cooking light meals, which ideally is a cleaner source of energy, but more expensive. Following the ban on logging, the price of charcoal almost tripled, forcing many businesses that rely on charcoal to incur extra costs. Kangogo and many Kenyans facing a similar challenge will soon get relief when plans by government to provide an affordable alternative fuel are realized.
So we are going to roll out by March, that is with the support of the private sector, to have alternative cooking stove using ethanol, which is much cheaper and is going to be affordable within 300 meters from households, especially in low-income areas.
We are actually emphasizing planting of bamboo, which actually can come in to be an alternative to charcoal. On value addition on bamboo alone, you'll get a lot of other products, including floor mats, furniture.
Kenya has more than 8 million households, more than half of which depend exclusively on wood fuel for their energy needs. This has contributed greatly to deforestation, a challenge that the government hopes will go away once all households adopt alternative energy sources. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
And traders in Nairobi's Feather Estate on the eastern side of the capital city on this morning staged demonstrations against the demolition of stores that caught them unawares. The traders say they had not been served with any notice of eviction, and they engaged the county enforcement unit in running battles along the outer ring road and chased county officers from the site of the demolition. They say they were licensed and had business permits and that their presence there was legal. They have now resolved to sue the county governments over the demolition, which have destroyed their source of livelihoods.
We are wondering hii kitu tukipewa na tukianzisha kila kitu, it was something which went very well with the councillor, the MCA who initiated it on the ground. We have really invested. I personally, I have invested $500,000 million in this place. 9 good stalls, they were all built and zilikuwa na tenants ndani. So you can imagine what a situation to the people of Embakasi ward.
And a significant proportion of Chase Bank's employees face the sack after new owner SBM Holdings said it will work with a select number of employees under the new terms. Andrew Bainbridge, the chief executive of SBM Holdings, says only 800 staff will work in the Kenyan unit, which is comprised of employees of the former Fidelity Bank and Chase Bank. The Mauritius lender is set to rebrand the acquired Chase Bank branches and reopen on August 20th following the exit of receiver manager KCB. Chase Bank is estimated to have about 1,300 employees, and apart from those job losses, the employees who have been left out will have to grapple with another pain of uncertainty facing 600 million shillings they pumped into Chase Bank and an employee share ownership plan established in 2006. The Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari is set to inaugurate a new light rail transit system in Abuja in order to give a boost to the country's transport sector. Residents of the Federal Capital Territory will soon begin to enjoy rides on the Abuja light rail, and delivery of the new rail network is one of the president's campaign promises. Some Nigerians had an opportunity to enjoy the maiden ride. The first of its kind in West Africa, it had been constructed in the hope of easing traffic congestion in Nigeria's capital city and also to ease the movement of people living in the communities around the city. The light rail is expected to provide relief for manufacturers and producers, hence boost trade in the area.
How many jobs people are getting jobs? Now local human capacity. You need to visit that area.
They forced to halt the burial of a man brutally murdered 2 weeks ago after neighbors turned hostile, demanding justice for the deceased.
The family of 54-year-old Samuel Ruoro put off the burial ceremony after youth demanded justice, claiming the deceased could not rest in peace until those behind his murder are brought to book.
They marched to the Deputy Commissioner's office to seek answers to the murder case and the general rise in insecurity currently facing the county.
Roro was killed on June 24th. The body was discovered in a sack that was dumped in a cattle dip.
Na wenye kuuana hawashikwi. Kwa hivyo tunataka haki itendeke, tujue yule mwenye
kumua. Hatutasika jamaa mwingine ama mtu mwingine kama hatujapewa ukweli na serikali nini inaendelea katika kijiji chetu.
The Wayu community in Marsabit claims that they have been neglected by the county government of Marsabit.
They say the government has denied them employment opportunities, and the community representatives pointed out that they were sidelined during this year's Lake Turkana Cultural Festival and that they want to take legal action against the county government.
However, Marsabit County spokesperson Issa Gambare says that the Wayu community is a political body and only the Wata community is recognized.
In this county, we have been neglected, we have been sidelined, we have been humiliated, and we have been even taken as the low status of the community living in this county.
Tunatambua ni Wata community. Tribe ingine ambayo inaitwa Wayu hatutambui hata kamwe. Kwa sababu hii ni spirit mambo ya siasa ambayo ileta ambayo ilikuwa ni 2014.
Parents of the 28 children who were injected with a toxic jab at Akichelesit dispensary in Teso North in 2015 today held protests at the Busia County Assembly.
The angry parents, accompanied by the children, today gathered at the County Assembly to seek audience with the governor. Affected parents want the county government to honor a high court order that gave them 40 million shillings compensation.
The parents say the process was taking too long and the children developed weak limbs after an injection at the Akichelesit dispensary, and most of them could barely walk.
On December 19, 2017, the court ordered the county government to compensate the 28 children who were paralyzed after receiving a malaria jab at this dispensary.
Watoto wamezidi kuumia kwa miaka minne. Hakuna mtu amechukua hatua. Wala hata gavana wetu kusema tu pole. Wala kuweka tu nini ama kuja kutazama watoto. Wala kuona wazazi.
Nasikia uchungu sana ninapoona mtoto nilizae kama ajalema. Na mwisho nimeona ateso mabaya. Imagine kama hiyo damu blue. If it is you, what will you say? What will you think about your child?
Serikali kuu isisahau ya kwamba hawa watoto bado wanateseka na watoto hawa wanahitaji matibabu maalum. Hawa watoto wanataka specialized treatment.
As the Senate and Ministry of Labour set about investigating alleged mistreatment of Kenyan workers by their Chinese masters, a couple residing in Kajiado say they can testify to it firsthand.
Dan and Hashnunish Sultan say quarry workers by the China Communication and Construction Company have turned their once happy home into a ticking time bomb.
When Hashnunish Sultan moved into her very own home 5 years ago, it was a point of pride, a place where she could seek refuge from the rigors of life. Now she says it's turned into the stuff of nightmares ever since the China Communication and Construction Company moved in next door.
My parents were living here, but my mother, after seeing the state of the house, had to move. This is a family home. She had to move. Some sisters of mine are staying in hotels. My mom is staying in another house. So there's other rents that we're paying and hotel bills that we're paying that is not supposed to be within our budget. No one can stay. I'm the one who is surviving here, still holding strong because I built this, and I find it so difficult to just let go.
Still, she gritted her teeth and put up with the nuisance. That was until May this year, when her Chinese neighbors crossed the line from mildly annoying to life-threatening, with cracks developing on her walls as a result of the constant blasting of rocks.
They blast this quarry 24/7, night, day, and they're really, really loud. That is affecting our houses. My problem is my walls have started having visible cracks that are through and through. They're not superficial. They're from the front and the back. As you can see, this wall is really long, and it's the one that is supporting the ceiling. So if this wall went down, that means the entire house goes down.
As can be expected, she went and knocked on the door of her Chinese neighbor to demand recompense, only to have the door shut firmly in her face. She then sought audience with the Kenya Railways and her area MP, Paris Tobiko, to no avail.
It's so dangerous for us to live here. They're telling us if we find, the SGR people are telling us, if we find this is dangerous to live here, then why don't we move? Where do we move to? Who is going to pay rent for us in another house? This is a house I've built from scratch. I've been here for 5 years. I've never had a problem. Suddenly my problems are occurring since the SGR has been here.
At her wit's end, she resorted to venting her frustration on Facebook, hoping it would catch the right eye and make a difference in their living situation. Theirs is not an isolated case, with similar lamentations shared among neighbors, but seemingly not in the right circles. And so they look favorably on an inquisition into Chinese investors' practices in the country, hoping it will crack open a window for their grievances to be heard. In a statement to NTV, the China Communications and Construction Company has assured that it has constituted a team to investigate the complaint, while regretting any upset the construction work may have caused. Olive Burrows, NTV.
12 minutes to 10 right here on NTV Tonight. We take another short break. Sports news is next.